The Hero Arts main kit and add-ons this month features a southwestern theme with landscapes, adventure, road tripping, and vintage diner looks that are so much fun. Hey everyone, I'm Rebecca Keppel, and I am going to share the main kit stamps and dies, as well as some add-ons of stencils, more stamps, more dies. I want to make sure everything gets a little bit of time today, so we're going to go through the cards quickly and I'll share the new products along the way. Let's start by taking a look at the main kit this month. The main kit comes with layering stencils, and you know how much I love layering stencils. They're so easy to use and they create beautiful images with very little work on your part, just some ink blending, which I think is a breeze. So you can see this is a southwestern landscape that you're going to create with these 4 different stencils layered on top of each other. So all 4 go together. I'm just showing you 2 by 2 to see the kind of thing they create, and they have these little squares in the corner that help you easily line them up. There's also some dies that you can cut out some of the individual images from inside the stenciled image, and then you can cut out that background as well. There's also a stamp set. This is a small stamp set, but it has a ton of sentiments packed inside. Everything from good luck to adventure waits to wish you were here, best wishes, just lots of different sentiments for a lot of different themed cards, and you'll be able to use a lot of these with the rest of the supplies in the add-ons as well. Okay, so I'm going to use some pixie tape to tape my cardstock, which I've sized to the same size as the stencil. And I just like to do that sometimes. I just think it makes it easier to start with the same size as the stencil, and then you can cut it down to the image. So I'm going to be using a bunch of Distress Oxide inks today, and I'm going for that kind of southwestern theme there with a mix of browns, oranges, and then I'm going to add in some purple too, which I know a lot of you say that I don't use enough. So this purple goes really well, kind of that southwestern look to it. I've got some green for the cactus and a nice mustard seed for the sun as well. And this image comes together so quickly. It's so easy to create. I absolutely love it. I am using the same piece of pixie tape over and over again, one at the top and one at the bottom, just to keep the stencil in place. Now you can use those little cut out squares in the corners to line everything up, but I found this stencil was very easy to figure out where it's supposed to go. So you have the main shape of the cacti, and then you have kind of the detailed layer on top of that, which is another stencil. The last piece to this puzzle is kind of some detail on the mountains in the back and then some clouds at the top, and that's where I'm going to add in my purple. So now I know like clouds aren't purple, but sometimes we do get those southwestern skies, especially when it's going to storm, that kind of have that impending storm look of lots of deep colors and purples. So that is one of my favorite looking skies. So I'm going to go for that. So I have just a mix of some browns and oranges over the top to add some detail to those mountains. And then I have that seedless preserves at the very top and I think this ends up looking like, you know, those posters, those prints that the national forests use to get people excited to come. I think this kind of ends up looking like one of those prints, which I love those prints. I think they're so cool. So I am going to cut it down to 4 by 5 1/4 and then mat it on some kind of purpley looking cardstock. I used one of the sentiments from the stamp set, and I'm going to stamp and heat emboss it with some gold Hero Arts embossing powder. And then I'm just going to pop that up on some foam tape, and I'm going to place that kind of right under the sun. I don't want to take away from anything in the image, but I did love that be wild and free sentiment. Okay, now let's take a look at the Luggage fancy dies. These dies come clipped all together like this, and for this purpose, I'm not going to clip them apart yet because I'm going to cut them all out of white cardstock. So I tend to do this a lot if they're not overlapping, you know, and they're not inside each other. together. I like to keep them together so that I don't lose the little ones. Now I have a couple of the different luggage suitcases and I have them all cut out of white cardstock, so I'm going to ink blend them in a rainbow of colors. I'm starting with Kitsch Flamingo. It's been a while since I did kind of one of those rainbow die cut cards, so I thought it would be fun to do that for this. Now, you can see that the dies cut out a lot of detail on the suitcases. You could cut those apart. You could cut these out of different colors of cardstock, cut all those little pieces apart and put them back together and do a paper piecing. I did not have the patience for that today, so we did ink blending instead. And I'm going to use, I used the saltwater taffy for my orange color. I'm going to use squeezed lemonade for my yellow color. And I'm using my waffle flower blending brushes just so that I don't have to use a huge amount of ink or a big brush, just use a tiny one. And I'm using the tiniest one, which I don't use as much as the other sizes, to color in the globe. So I put some mowed lawn on the land, and then I'm putting some tumbled glass on the rest of the globe. And then I did cut out the globe and just the luggage tags out of some gold mirror cardstock. I'm going to use two of the luggage tags, one at the top and one at the bottom. And then I'm going to take the globe that I've cut out in gold. Now that's pretty cool too. Like a gold globe would be fun, but I'm just going to cut out the base and kind of that arm that the globe swings around. And I'm going to use that to paper piece on top of the globe that I ink blended. So that looks metallic on the bottom. And now I am just using some foam tape to pop these up. Now these suitcases or luggage come in varied sizes so that you can stack them on top of each other. And I used one of the sentiments from the main kit sentiment stamp set. Okay, this is the Roadside's bold prints. As you know from Hero Art's bold prints, they are 6x6 red cling mounted stamps, so they have a great stamping image. I'm going to use my Tim Holtz Media Grip in my original Misty to hold that cardstock in place because I want this to stamp edge to edge, top to bottom. So I don't want to put it in the corner of the Misty because then it's not going to stamp up until the very edge. It's not going to be bleeding to the edge. So there you go. That one is stamped in salvaged patina. I also stamped one in saltwater taffy. I was thinking about those diner colors, the kind of 60s diner colors. I don't know why the Route 66, it kind of just brought all of that to mind to me. So now I'm cutting out some of the road signs from the saltwater taffy image, and I'm going to layer them on top of the background that I stamped in salvaged patina. And this is Roadside Messages bundle. This is the stamp set. So this is why I was thinking about the 60s diner. It was these images that really brought it to mind for me, and I thought that was so much fun to combine the two together. So I'm going to use that real big bottom one that talks about a journey is 1,000 miles, all that goodness. So I am stamping it on black cardstock. I'm going to use lots of anti-static powder tool, and I'm going to stamp it with Versamark ink. I have been using my Debbie tool a lot here to get really good impression, to get good pressure on the Misty. And then I'm going to use the Hero Arts Silver Sparkle Embossing Powder. This is a great silver embossing powder that has a great silver base, but then also has some glitter mixed in. Sometimes the glitter embossing powders are all glitter, and so it doesn't have great coverage for little words like this, but this one does because it has silver and then some glitter mixed in. I'm going to use the dies to cut that out, and then I'm going to trim this background down to 4 by 5 1/4 to use the rest of that black cardstock so as a mat behind it. So I really liked the black around the outside and then the black around the die cut in the middle, which I popped up on some foam tape again. This is the On the Road Fancy die. This is a very cool looking die. It's two people sitting in a car kind of looking out the front windshield, and then you have that back mirror. So I thought they looked like a silhouette. It immediately brought that to mind to me. I'm going to cut out the mirror though in silver mirror cardstock and just glue that little piece, which I had cut apart from from the rest of the image, just so that I don't know, it just kind of looked cool to me to have that as a mirror. And then I'm going to use the Desert Road stencil because I wanted them looking out onto something really beautiful. So I'm going to use this stencil to create an image for them to be looking out of the windshield. So the stencil is kind of that desert road look to it. So I have the sun and I have kind of, again, that like deep desert sky with some festive berries and some crackling campfire and even a little bit of villainous potion. Again, I'm loving the purple mixed in for these desert landscapes. I'm using aged mahogany here, which I hardly use at all, but looks really beautiful with these colors. And then finally, my favorite kind of brown in the Distress Oxide line is the tea dye. And then I covered up that cactus with some mowed lawn again. You can see I missed a little spot. That's just because I could tell from the die cut that I didn't need that ink blended, so why go through all the trouble if you don't actually need it? I'm gonna go back to the main kit stamp set again and take one of the sentiments from that. It's just got so many different sentiments, and the little font of it just fits really well with a lot of different cards. So I did stamp and heat emboss that, and now I'm gonna pop that sentiment strip up on some black foam squares so that we hide that, and it just says have a safe journey. Just a totally different looking card. So much fun. I love how all these cards ended up looking so different from each other. And this is the Winding Road HeroScape bundle. So if you're familiar with HeroScape stamps, they are layering stamps that create kind of those landscapes or different types of looking backgrounds. So this one creates a road and then kind of that landscape background. So I'm going to start at the bottom with the road. Sometimes if you start too high or you don't know where to start, you don't have enough room for the bottom piece. So for me, it was easiest to start with the road and then put the background of the pine trees and then put the layered pine tree. And then I realized there was one more stamp that was for the lines of the road. So I thought that could be yellow. And I did use the dies to cut that out because I decided I wanted it on a blue sky. I had done so many of the dark jewel tone skies. It was time for like one just regular old blue sky. So I ink blended that and then put this landscape on that, and then used some anti-static powder tool to stamp and heat emboss the sentiment that was included in this stamp set that says you're on your way. And I did use the little birds from the stamp set to stamp those as well in the sky. So again, a totally different looking card. This is the Cactus Prince. So again, a 6x6 red cling mounted stamp, and it creates this cactus background. So this time I am going to stamp and heat emboss it on some colorful cardstock. So I am going to use lots of pressure to get a good impression with a bunch of Versamark ink. And this time I'm using the white satin pearl embossing powder from Hero Arts. So this will not completely cover those cactus. It will kind of make it a pearlized green from the background. Right now it looks like it's white, but when you heat set it, it's more of a clear mixed with a pearl or like an iridescence. So you just got to heat set that whole thing. And then I like to just use a dry cloth to get that anti-static powder tool off because I tend to use a lot to make sure you don't get it where you don't want it. So I'm going to mat this on some craft cardstock. I did cut it down to 4 by 5 1/4. And then I'm going to use the same craft cardstock to stamp my sentiment. I went back to that little stamp set. Again, a whole different sentiment from the main kit. There are so many in there, I can't even tell you. So I'm just going to cut that down to a little sentiment strip, and I'm going to put that flat on the card. Again, totally different looking card, but I think this is so much fun too. As always, I'd love to hear what your favorite was this month. Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to stop by my blog for your chance to win one of the Hero Arts gift card giveaways. As always, I want to thank you so much for stopping by and spending time with me today. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you again soon. This month's my monthly, no. Okay, just settle down. Nothing I say makes any sense today. We got there eventually. It was a road trip of its own. Quite a journey. I've officially lost it. Where did that start again? We got plenty of material for that one.